It was a chilly Wednesday evening, the kind that invites you to curl up on the couch with a cup of tea and a good book. Instead, I found myself pacing the living room, anxiously waiting for Jess to return home. We'd been together for 3 years, and while things weren't perfect, I had always believed we were solid. That day had started out like any other. I had left for work, and Jess had promised to be home early. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows filled the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I shrugged it off as paranoia, the product of a long week, but as the clock ticked on, my unease grew. Finally, just after 8, Jess walked through the door, her laughter echoing through the hallway as she greeted me. She looked beautiful, her hair cascading over her shoulders, a radiant smile plastered across her face. But there was a slight hesitation in her eyes, a flicker that I couldn't quite place. "Hey, sorry I'm late. Work ran over," she said, her voice light and cheerful. I forced a smile and nodded, but the nagging feeling in my gut persisted. After a quick dinner, Jess suggested we watch a movie. We settled into the couch, but I could hardly focus on the screen. My mind kept wandering, replaying the day's events and the way she had rushed in. It was as if she was trying too hard to cover something up. As she laughed at a joke in the film, I glanced at her phone, which lay innocently on the coffee table. I had never felt the need to invade her privacy before, but something compelled me to take a look. Maybe it was the instinct to protect myself from a looming danger I couldn't fully articulate. When she got up to grab some snacks, I took a deep breath and picked up her phone. My heart raced as I unlocked it, something I usually wouldn't do. A flood of anxiety coursed through me as I opened her messages, and that's when my heart dropped. The first thread of messages was innocent enough, friendly banter between Jess and her co-workers. But then I noticed a name I didn't recognize, Alex. At first, I told myself it was just a friend, but as I scrolled further, my world shattered. Their messages were flirtatious, filled with inside jokes and emojis that seemed to cross a line I never imagined was there. Jess had shared things with Alex that she had never shared with me, her dreams, her fears, and intimate moments that should have been ours alone. The more I read, the more my heart sank, each word feeling like a dagger. "Can't wait to see you this weekend. Just you and me," one message read. Another followed, "You always know how to make me smile. I'm so glad we met." A wave of nausea hit me. I felt as though the ground had opened up beneath me. This wasn't just a simple fling, it was a betrayal, a crack in the foundation of everything I thought we had built together. Just as I was processing the gut-wrenching reality of what I had discovered, Jess returned with a bowl of popcorn, her smile bright and unassuming. The moment she caught sight of me holding her phone, the color drained from her face. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice suddenly tight. I felt the heat rise in my chest, a mix of anger and betrayal. "Who is Alex?" I blurted out, the accusation hanging in the air like a heavy fog. Her expression shifted from surprise to panic, and in that moment, I knew I had crossed a line. The world as I knew it was slipping through my fingers, and I was left standing at the edge, staring into the abyss. I waited for her answer, my heart pounding in my ears. In that moment, everything I thought I knew began to unravel. #to be continued. Chapter 2, The Confrontation. Jess's eyes widened in shock, and for a heartbeat, the air was thick with tension. I could see her mind racing, calculating her next move. The popcorn bowl trembled in her hands, and the room felt like it was closing in around us. "Alex?" she stammered, her voice catching in her throat. "Don't lie to me, Jess. I saw the messages." My voice was steadier than I felt, but anger was bubbling beneath the surface. "What's going on? Who is he?" She took a deep breath, her facade starting to crack. "It's not what you think, I swear. We've just been talking, it's nothing serious." "Nothing serious?" I echoed, incredulous. You're texting him about weekends and sharing personal things. That doesn't sound like nothing to me. Jess's gaze dropped to the floor, and I could see the fight leaving her. Okay, maybe I got carried away. But it's not cheating. We were just friends. I didn't mean for it to go this far. The word sliced through me. Just friends. I repeated, my voice rising. You don't share that kind of stuff with just a friend, Jess. You share that with someone you're in a relationship with. I didn't intend for it to happen. It felt good to talk to someone who listened, she said, her voice trembling. I could see the tears brimming in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. But the betrayal was too fresh, too raw. Did you ever think about how it would make me feel? I shot back. What did you expect me to think when I found those messages? That you were just having a casual chat? Jess wiped her eyes, her expression a mix of regret and guilt. I'm sorry, I really am. I didn't mean for it to escalate. I thought I could manage it, but I guess I was wrong. The hurt I felt morphed into anger, and I took a step back, trying to regain my composure. What does that even mean for us, Jess? How do we move on from this? Can I even trust you anymore? I don't know, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I messed up, and I'm so sorry. I love you, but I got confused. I never meant to hurt you. I shook my head, feeling the weight of her words pressing down on me. Love? You think this is love? What you did was a betrayal, Jess. I can't just forget that. The room fell silent, the weight of the confrontation settling around us. I felt like I was standing on shaky ground, my heart racing as I tried to process everything. The trust we had built over the past 3 years was crumbling, and I felt lost. Jess took a tentative step towards me, her hands outstretched as if she could bridge the chasm that had opened up between us. Please, let's talk about this. I want to fix it. I'll do whatever it takes. Her desperation pulled at my heart, but I couldn't shake the images of those messages. How can I believe you? How can I trust anything you say after this? Because I'm willing to fight for us, she pleaded, her eyes searching mine for a glimmer of hope. I'll cut him out of my life. I'll show you that I'm serious about us. Just give me a chance. I felt torn, caught between the love I had for her and the hurt she had caused. I need time, I finally said, my voice softening slightly. Time to think about everything. I can't just brush this off. Okay, I understand, she said, relief washing over her face. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. I don't want to lose you. As she stepped back, the distance between us felt monumental. I watched as she sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I felt a mixture of compassion and sorrow for both of us. I turned and walked out of the living room, seeking solace in the quiet of our bedroom. The walls felt like they were closing in, each step heavier than the last. I sat on the edge of the bed, my thoughts swirling like a storm. Was I ready to throw away everything we had built together? Could I forgive her? Or was this the beginning of the end? I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, each path fraught with uncertainty. For the rest of the night, I tossed and turned, unable to escape the reality of what I had learned. Jess's laughter echoed in my mind, and I couldn't help but wonder if it had all been a facade, a mask she wore to hide the truth. As the dawn began to break, I knew that I had a decision to make, a decision that would alter the course of our lives forever. #to be continued. Chapter 3, The Aftermath. Morning light seeped through the curtains, painting the room in soft hues of gold. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the previous night's conversation over and over. Each time, it felt like a fresh wound reopening. Jess had been my partner, my confidant, and now Now she was a source of pain. After a restless night, I reluctantly pulled myself out of bed, the weight of our conversation still pressing down on me. I could hear Jess moving around in the kitchen, the clatter of dishes breaking the silence. Part of me wanted to avoid her, to keep my distance until I could sort through my emotions, but another part knew we had to talk again. I stepped into the kitchen, where Jess stood at the counter, her back to me as she prepared breakfast. The scent of pancakes filled the air, a stark contrast to the heaviness in my heart. She turned as I entered, her eyes searching mine for any hint of resolution. "Morning," she said softly, a hint of hope in her voice. "Morning," I replied, my tone neutral. I grabbed a cup of coffee, needing the familiar warmth to steady my racing heart. "Do you want pancakes?" she asked, trying to sound cheerful. "Not really hungry," I mumbled, taking a sip and leaning against the counter. I watched as her smile faltered, but she quickly masked it with determination. "Okay," she said, her voice steadying. "I know we need to talk. I don't want to just brush everything under the rug." I nodded, grateful she was willing to address the elephant in the room, but I still felt apprehensive. "What's there to talk about, Jess? You've already told me how you feel." "I mean, I want to explain. I want you to understand what happened," she said, her eyes pleading. "It was never my intention to hurt you." I sighed, frustration creeping in. "It doesn't matter why it happened. The fact is, it did happen, and now I have to figure out what that means for us." Jess nodded, her face falling. "I get that. But please, just hear me out." I hesitated, then finally relented. "Okay. Talk." She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I've been feeling a little lost lately. Work has been overwhelming, and I felt like I was drowning. I didn't know how to communicate that to you, and then Alex, he was just there. He listened when I needed someone to talk to. It spiraled, and I never meant for it to go that far. I felt a mix of anger and pity. So this was just a distraction? A way for you to escape?" "No," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with emotion. "It wasn't just a distraction. I didn't realize it was wrong until it was too late. I thought I could keep it from getting serious, but it got complicated." Her honesty hung in the air, and I could see the regret etched on her face. "I just wanted to feel heard and appreciated," she continued, her voice quivering. "But I see now how foolish I was. I let someone in when I should have turned to you. Did you ever think to tell me?" I challenged. "Did it even cross your mind that I might want to help you through whatever you were feeling?" Jess's gaze dropped to the floor, shame flooding her features. "I was scared. I thought I could handle it on my own. But I see now how wrong I was. I should have come to you." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "This is hard for me, Jess. I don't want to just forgive and forget. I need to understand if you really want to make this work, or if you're just scared of losing me." "I want to make it work," she insisted, her eyes pleading for me to believe her. "I love you, and I realize how much I've jeopardized our relationship. I'll do anything to prove that I can be the partner you deserve." "Words are easy, Jess. I need actions," I said, my voice steady but firm. "Cutting him out of your life isn't just a promise, it's a necessity. I can't move forward if I know he's still in the picture." "Of course," she said, her voice resolute. "I'll block him right now. I won't talk to him ever again. I promise." "Then do it," I said, my heart pounding. "Show me that you're serious about this." Jess nodded, her expression determined. She picked up her phone and quickly navigated to her messages. I watched as she blocked Alex, her fingers shaking slightly. Once it was done, she turned to me, her eyes hopeful. "See? I'm serious. "I'll show you that I want this," she said, stepping closer to me. I felt a flicker of hope but was cautious. This isn't going to be easy. Trust has been broken, and it'll take time to rebuild it. I need space to process everything. "I understand," she replied, her voice steady. "I'll give you the space you need. Just know that I'm committed to making this work." As the morning dragged on, we finished breakfast in silence. I could see Jess trying to gauge my feelings, but all I felt was the weight of uncertainty. Later, I decided to take a walk to clear my mind. The fresh air would help me think. As I strolled through the neighborhood, my thoughts were a chaotic whirlwind. I replayed our conversation, the emotions swirling like a storm inside me. Would I ever be able to trust her again? Could love truly overcome betrayal? I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. #to be continued. Chapter 4, Facing Reality. The fresh air was invigorating as I walked through the neighborhood, each step helping to calm the storm of emotions swirling in my mind. The leaves crunched beneath my feet, a reminder of the world moving on despite my inner turmoil. I glanced around at families walking their dogs, children playing in the parks, and couples sharing quiet moments. It felt surreal, as if life had continued while I stood frozen in time. After an hour of wandering, I made my way back home, my mind a bit clearer but still heavy with uncertainty. When I stepped through the door, Jess was sitting on the couch, her phone in her hands, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. "How was your walk?" she asked, her eyes flicking up to meet mine. "Clearing," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. I didn't want to give her false hope, but I also didn't want to shut her out entirely. I needed to think. "Did you come to any conclusions?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the jumble of feelings inside me. "I don't know yet, Jess. I can't pretend that everything is okay after what happened. Trust doesn't just rebuild overnight." "I understand," she replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know I messed up, and I'll do everything I can to prove that I can be the partner you need. I'll be patient." Her willingness to wait tugged at my heart, but I couldn't shake the doubt that lingered. "It's not just about being patient. I need to see real change, Jess. Not just promises. Actions." "I know," she said earnestly. "I'll make sure you see that. Just give me a chance." I nodded, appreciating her resolve, but deep down, I still felt the fear of being hurt again. "Let's take things slow, okay? I need to figure out how to move forward, and I don't want to rush into anything. Slow is good." "I'll follow your lead," she assured me, a flicker of relief crossing her face. That evening, as we settled into a new routine of watching TV together, I tried to focus on the present. Jess was making an effort. She laughed at the right moments and leaned in closer than usual, trying to bridge the gap between us. But I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. "Can I ask you something?" I said during a commercial break, breaking the silence. "Of course," she replied, her eyes attentive. "Do you still want to talk to Alex? Do you miss him?" Jess's expression shifted, and for a moment, I could see the internal struggle on her face. I can't lie and say I don't miss the attention. But I know now that it was wrong, and I don't want to go back to that. I want to focus on us." "Good," I said, relieved to hear her say that. "But you need to realize that I'll always have that in the back of my mind. It's not just going to disappear." "I understand," she said softly. "I'm sorry I put you in this position. I'll work hard to make things right." We finished the evening in a tense but manageable silence, and I went to bed that night feeling a mix of hope and dread. I couldn't ignore the fact that Jess was trying, but I also knew that old habits die hard. As the days turned into a week, Jess made small changes. She left her phone face down when we were together, She spoke about her work and feelings more openly, and she avoided any mention of Alex. While it was comforting to see her trying, I still felt an ache of doubt lurking beneath the surface. One evening, as we sat on the couch scrolling through TV shows, Jess turned to me, her expression serious. "I know it's been a rough week, and I want to help you feel more secure. Is there anything I can do?" I paused, considering her question. "Honestly, just being transparent with me helps. If you have feelings or concerns, I need you to share them. I want to be a part of your life, but I can't do that if you keep shutting me out." "Okay," she nodded. "I promise I'll be more open. I don't want to lose you." Her words felt genuine, but a nagging voice in my head reminded me of the betrayal. "And if you need space, you can tell me. Just be honest with yourself and with me." "I will," she replied, her eyes locking onto mine. "I want to build this trust back up, but I can't do it alone." The vulnerability in her voice tugged at my heart. I could see that she was truly remorseful, but I also knew I couldn't simply erase the past. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized I needed to confront my own feelings. I wanted to move forward, but the ghost of betrayal lingered like a shadow. Would I ever fully trust her again? In the days that followed, Jess and I made small strides. We went on walks together, tried new restaurants, and even attended a local event. The laughter we shared felt genuine, yet I still felt a disconnect, like there was a wall between us that I couldn't quite break through. As we navigated this new territory, I found myself torn between hope for the future and fear of repeating the past. One afternoon, while Jess was out running errands, I found myself staring at our old photos. Memories of happier times flooded back: the vacations, the late-night talks, the way we used to laugh until we cried. But as I scrolled through those images, I also felt a pang of sadness for what had been lost. When Jess returned, I felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. I wanted to talk, to share my thoughts and feelings, but I also didn't want to dive into the depths of our hurt. "Hey, how was your day?" she asked, her smile bright but nervous. "It was good," I said, my voice measured. "But I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we need to do moving forward." Jess nodded, her expression serious. "Me too. I want to make sure we're both on the same page." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I think we need to set some boundaries. I need to know you're committed to working on this. If there are any feelings that come up, we need to talk about them, no matter how uncomfortable." "Absolutely," she said earnestly. "I'm all in. I want to work through this together. I don't want to go back to how things were." "Then let's do this," I said, my heart racing. "But let's make it a point to communicate regularly about how we're feeling. I don't want to end up back where we were." Jess reached out, taking my hand in hers, her touch warm and grounding. "I promise to keep the lines of communication open. We'll face this together." As we sat in silence for a moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe we could rebuild our relationship, brick by brick, even if the foundation was shaky. But as I looked into Jess's eyes, I knew the journey ahead would be anything but easy. #to be continued. Chapter 5, The Test. Days turned into weeks, and our routine began to feel somewhat normal again. Jess and I made an effort to communicate openly, but I often caught myself analyzing every interaction, every word she said. While she had promised to be transparent, I still felt like a wary observer, navigating a fragile balance between love and distrust. One Friday evening, Jess suggested we go out with a few friends. I hesitated, feeling a surge of anxiety at the thought of seeing people we usually spent time with, knowing they had no idea what was going on beneath the surface of our relationship. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" I asked, trying to mask my apprehension. "I don't know if I'm ready for that." "Come on," she said, her voice encouraging. It'll be fun. We need to start enjoying life again. Plus, it's just a casual get-together. Reluctantly, I agreed. I wanted to support her desire to reconnect with friends, but a knot of worry tightened in my stomach as we got ready. When we arrived at the restaurant, the buzz of laughter and conversation enveloped us, momentarily distracting me from my thoughts. Our friends greeted us with cheerful hugs and laughter, and I forced a smile, trying to blend into the atmosphere. As the evening wore on, I watched Jess interact with our friends, her laughter ringing genuine, but a part of me remained distant. Every time her phone buzzed, my heart raced, the ghost of Alex lingering like an unwanted specter. After a couple of hours, I excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment away from the crowd. I stood in front of the mirror, splashing water on my face, trying to shake off the unease. As I walked back to the table, I overheard a snippet of conversation. Jess was chatting animatedly with one of our friends, and I caught her mentioning Alex's name. My heart plummeted. "Did you hear from Alex?" our friend asked, and Jess laughed lightly. No. I blocked him. I'm totally over that." I froze in place, my pulse quickening. While Jess's tone was light, the fact that she even mentioned him at all felt like a betrayal, a breach of the fragile agreement we'd made. I took a deep breath, fighting against the wave of anger rising in my chest. When I returned to the table, I plastered a smile on my face, but inside, I was a storm. Jess caught my eye and smiled, but I felt a coldness creeping in. The conversation continued, and while our friends were oblivious to the tension, I felt like I was drowning in it. "Are you okay?" Jess asked later, her voice low as we stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. "I'm fine," I replied curtly, my tone betraying my true feelings. "Come on, you don't look fine," she pressed, concern flooding her features. "I just overheard you talking about Alex," I shot back, unable to contain my frustration. "I thought we agreed that we wouldn't bring him up." "It was a passing comment. I thought you'd be okay with it since I've moved on," she defended, her voice rising slightly. "I'm not okay with it, Jess. It's still fresh for me. Every time I hear his name, it reminds me of what happened. I can't just act like it didn't happen." Jess's eyes softened, and I could see the hurt in her expression. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I really thought I was past that." "Clearly, you're not if you're still mentioning him," I said, my voice harsh. "Can we just drop it for tonight?" she pleaded, her eyes glistening. "I want to enjoy our time with friends." "I want to enjoy it too, but it's hard when you're still bringing him up," I replied, my frustration boiling over. As we stood in the cool night air, I felt the distance between us growing wider. Jess looked down, and I could see her fighting back tears. I wanted to comfort her, but I felt too raw, too wounded. "I'm sorry. I'll be more careful with my words," she said quietly. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I just don't want to feel like I'm competing with a ghost, Jess. I need to know that you're fully committed to us." "I am," she insisted, her voice desperate. "I want to be with you, but it's going to take time for me to completely let go of the past too." "I understand that," I replied, softening slightly. "But we can't keep stepping on each other's toes. We need to find a way to navigate this together." After a long pause, Jess nodded, the fight leaving her eyes. "You're right. I'll do better. Just please, bear with me. I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in her voice struck a chord, and as I took a deep breath, I felt a flicker of hope rekindle within me. We returned to our friends, putting on a brave face as the laughter continued around us. But underneath the surface, I knew we still had a long way to go. As the night wore on, I felt a glimmer of reassurance. Maybe we could navigate this storm together, but it would require effort from both of us. The next day, I decided it was time to lay everything on the table. Jess and I needed to have a serious discussion about our future and what we both wanted. I wanted to know if she was truly committed to making this work or if she was still grappling with her feelings for Alex. That evening, after dinner, I turned to Jess, my heart pounding. "We need to talk about us again." "Okay," she replied, her eyes widening slightly. "Are you really all in? Like, no second guessing or hesitations?" Jess paused, searching for the right words. "I am. I want this. I love you, and I know I made a terrible mistake. But I want to show you that I'm serious about us." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "Then let's set some ground rules. No mentioning Alex, no texting him, nothing. I need to feel secure in this." "Absolutely," she agreed, her expression earnest. "I'll cut him out completely. I promise. And if you start feeling overwhelmed or confused, I want you to come to me first. No more hiding things, okay?" "Okay," she said, her eyes steady. "I'll be open with you. I want to communicate better." As we spoke, I felt a newfound determination to rebuild what had been broken. I could sense that Jess was serious, and while it would take time, I wanted to believe that we could find our way back to each other. That night, as we cuddled on the couch, I felt a sense of comfort wash over me. It was still a long road ahead, but I knew we were taking the first steps toward healing together. #to be continued. Chapter 6, The Road to Recovery. The days that followed our heart-to-heart felt like a new beginning, yet every moment was laced with uncertainty. Jess made a conscious effort to respect the boundaries we had set, refraining from mentioning Alex and putting in the work to communicate more openly. I appreciated her efforts, but I couldn't help but feel like I was still walking on eggshells, hoping that I wouldn't trigger another emotional upheaval. One Saturday morning, we decided to go hiking, a chance to get away from the confines of our daily lives and reconnect with nature, just the two of us. The crisp autumn air filled my lungs as we made our way along the trail, the vibrant leaves painting a stunning backdrop. I welcomed the physical exertion, hoping it would ease the tension that had built up over the past weeks. As we walked, I took in the beauty of the world around us, trying to enjoy the moment and not let my mind drift to the darker thoughts that had haunted me. Jess walked beside me, her laughter ringing through the trees as she playfully recounted stories from her childhood. I felt a warmth creeping back into my heart as I watched her smile. "Remember that time we got lost on our hike last summer?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "How could I forget?" I chuckled. "We ended up wandering in circles for hours. We were so stubborn about not using the map," she laughed, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment at the memory. "Yeah, and you insisted we could find our way back based on sheer willpower," I teased, nudging her playfully. She laughed, her laughter ringing like music in the cool air. For a moment, it felt as if the weight of the past had lifted, and I was reminded of why I fell in love with her in the first place. But as we reached a scenic overlook, the view sprawling out before us, my heart sank back into a mix of anxiety and hope. "Jess," I said, breaking the comfortable silence that had enveloped us. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," she replied, turning to face me, her expression curious. "Do you think about Alex? I mean, do you ever find yourself wondering about him?" Her smile faltered slightly, and she looked away, staring out at the horizon. "Honestly, yes. Sometimes I do think about him, but it's not in the way you might think. It's more about regret than anything else." "Regret?" I echoed, my stomach twisting. "Yeah," she said slowly, her voice soft. "I regret the way I handled things. I regret letting myself get too close to someone else instead of turning to you when I needed support. I've realized that I was looking for something outside of us instead of addressing the issues we were facing together." Her honesty was refreshing, but I still felt the unease bubbling beneath the surface. And what if those feelings come back? What if you find yourself in a similar situation? I won't let that happen again, she said firmly, her eyes locking onto mine. I've learned my lesson. I want to be with you, and I'm committed to making this work. I can't change the past, but I can promise to be better. I need you to understand how serious this is for me, I said, my voice steady but vulnerable. If I feel like I'm competing with your past, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I completely understand, she said, her tone earnest. I want to be fully present with you. You're my priority. We stood there for a moment, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air, but the scenery around us felt like a balm to my frayed nerves. As we made our way back down the trail, I felt a flicker of hope reigniting within me. Jess's commitment to our relationship was palpable, and though the road to recovery would be bumpy, I could sense we were making progress. Over the next few weeks, Jess continued to demonstrate her commitment. She started making small gestures, cooking my favorite meals, leaving little notes around the house, and initiating deeper conversations about our feelings and dreams. We talked about our future, our shared aspirations, and slowly, I began to let down my guard. Yet, even with these positive changes, the shadow of doubt lingered in the corners of my mind. I was constantly evaluating her actions, trying to decipher whether she was genuinely committed or simply putting on a facade to keep me from leaving. One evening, we were sitting on the couch watching a movie, a cozy blanket wrapped around us. Jess had her head resting on my shoulder, and for a moment, everything felt right. But then, my phone buzzed, snapping me back to reality. It was a message from one of our mutual friends, asking if I had heard from Alex. My stomach twisted as I read it, memories of betrayal flashing through my mind. Hey, I need to step outside for a moment, I said abruptly, not waiting for Jess's response. Okay, she said, confusion etched on her face. I walked outside, my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease as I stared at the stars above, the chill of the night air sending shivers down my spine. The message lingered in my mind. Why would Alex come up now? Was he trying to contact Jess again? I felt my emotions surge, frustration, anger, and fear all rolled into one. Taking a deep breath, I sent a quick response to my friend, asking them not to mention Alex again. But as I turned to go back inside, I caught sight of Jess standing in the doorway, her expression a mix of concern and apprehension. Everything okay? She asked, her voice low. No, it's not, I admitted, stepping back inside. I just got a message about Alex, and I don't know how to handle it. Why would they mention him? She asked, her brow furrowing. I don't know, I said, frustration creeping in. But I can't help but feel like he's still lurking in the background, and I don't know how to make him disappear. I promise you, he's out of my life, she said earnestly, stepping closer to me. I blocked him, and I've made it clear to everyone that I don't want to talk about him. I know you did, I said, my voice strained. But the fact that he keeps coming up feels like a reminder that this isn't over. It's hard for me to forget. I understand, she said, her eyes filled with empathy. But I need you to trust me. I'm serious about us. I want to move forward, but I can't do that if we keep getting pulled back into the past. Her words struck a chord, and I felt a pang of guilt for projecting my fears onto her. You're right, I said, my tone softening. I just need reassurance. I don't want to lose what we've been building. You won't, she said, her voice steady. We're in this together. Just like you told me before, if anything comes up, we'll face it together. I nodded, appreciating her unwavering support. Okay, let's promise to keep communicating. I want to work through this, but I need to know you're with me. I am, she assured me, reaching for my hand. We'll figure this out, step by step. As we stood there, the cool night air enveloping us, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The journey ahead would still be challenging, but I was starting to believe that we could navigate the storm together. Hashtag to be continued. Chapter 7, Building Trust. As the weeks rolled on, Jess and I fell into a rhythm that felt both comforting and fragile. We continued to navigate our relationship carefully, addressing issues as they arose. Jess was consistently attentive, and I was learning to trust her efforts, but the echoes of past pain still lingered in the back of my mind. One evening, we decided to host a small gathering at our apartment, an opportunity to reconnect with our closest friends without the weight of the past hanging over us. Jess busied herself in the kitchen, preparing a variety of appetizers, while I set up the living room with drinks and music. As our friends arrived, laughter filled the air, creating a lively atmosphere that helped to momentarily ease my tension. I was grateful for the distraction, but I couldn't help but keep a close eye on Jess, watching her interactions, gauging her comfort level. "Hey, come help me with this dip," she called to me, waving me over to the kitchen. I smiled and made my way over, eager to support her. "What do you need?" "I need someone to taste test this guacamole. I think I might have gone a little heavy on the lime," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I took a chip and scooped some guacamole, savoring the fresh flavors. "It's perfect." "You nailed it." Jess laughed, her laughter infectious as she playfully elbowed me. "I'm glad to hear it, chef. Just remember, I'm going to need a rave review from our guests." As the evening continued, I felt a sense of normalcy settling in. We mingled with friends, shared stories, and laughed until our sides hurt. Jess's warmth and enthusiasm were contagious, and I found myself feeling lighter as the night wore on. But as the gathering wound down, I noticed Jess stepping aside to take a phone call. I tried to focus on the conversation happening around me, but a wave of unease washed over me as I saw her face shift, the laughter fading as she spoke. When she returned, I could see that something was bothering her. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, it was just my mom," she replied, but I could sense the tension behind her words. "Are you sure? You looked a little off." She hesitated, biting her lip as she searched for the right words. "It's just family stuff. You know how it is." I nodded, but a knot formed in my stomach. I wanted to believe her, but the thought of her hiding anything, especially if it involved Alex, made my heart race. As the last of our friends left, I decided it was time to address my concerns. "Jess, can we talk?" "Sure," she said, her tone softening. We sat down on the couch, and I took a deep breath. "I can't shake this feeling that something's bothering you. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it, but I want you to know I'm here for you." Jess looked down for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I appreciate that, but it really is just family stuff. It's nothing to worry about." "Are you sure? Because if there's anything I can do to help, I want to be there for you." She met my gaze, her eyes filled with sincerity. "I promise, it's nothing you need to concern yourself with. I just need some time to sort it out." I hesitated, feeling the tension between us. "Okay, but please don't shut me out. I want to support you, and it's hard when I feel like there's a wall between us." Jess reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. "I'm not trying to shut you out, I swear. I just don't want to burden you with my family drama." I nodded, appreciating her honesty. "Just remember, you can talk to me about anything. I want to share both the good and the bad." "I will," she promised, her expression softening. The following days were a mixture of normalcy and underlying tension. Jess seemed more distant, and while she put in the effort to engage with me, I could tell that her mind was elsewhere. I respected her space, but a part of me couldn't help but wonder if she was hiding something more serious. One evening, after dinner, I decided to confront the feeling that had been gnawing at me. "Jess, I've noticed you've been a bit quiet lately. Is there anything you want to talk about?" She paused, her brow furrowing. "Honestly, I'm just stressed with work and family. It's been a lot to juggle." "Okay, but I can help you. You don't have to go through it alone." "I know, and I appreciate that," she said softly. "I just need some time to process everything." "Jess, it's hard for me to see you struggling and not be able to help," I admitted. "I want you to lean on me." "I will, I promise. Just give me a little time," she replied, her voice soothing. I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and understanding. "Okay, but I want to be clear that I'm here for you. I don't want us to slip back into old patterns." "I understand," she said, her eyes earnest. "I'll do my best to communicate better." As the days turned into weeks, Jess slowly opened up about her family struggles. She shared her concerns about her parents' health and the stress it was putting on her emotionally. I listened and offered my support, grateful for her willingness to share. In many ways, this experience brought us closer together. I realized that opening up about our vulnerabilities was part of rebuilding trust. Jess was making an effort to let me in, and I felt a renewed sense of connection with her. One evening, while we were sitting together, I took a moment to reflect on how far we had come. "I really appreciate how open you've been with me lately," I said, brushing my fingers against hers. "It means a lot." "I'm glad you feel that way," she replied, her voice soft. "I've learned that I can't just keep everything bottled up. I need you in my corner." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "And I want to be there for you. We're a team, after all." As we talked about our hopes and dreams, I could feel the weight of the past starting to lift. The shadows of betrayal were still there, but they didn't loom as large as they once had. I wanted to believe that we could continue to move forward together, stronger than before. Yet, just as I began to feel a sense of peace, I received a text message late one night that turned everything upside down. It was from Alex. "Hey, Jess. I hope you're doing well. I miss you." My heart raced as I read the words. The ghost of the past had returned, and with it came a wave of doubt and insecurity. "Jess." I called, my voice strained. "We need to talk." She rushed into the room, her expression shifting to concern. "What's wrong?" I held up my phone, my hands shaking. "I just got a message from Alex." Her eyes widened, and I could see the color drain from her face. "What does it say?" "I miss you," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why is he reaching out?" Jess asked, panic creeping into her tone. "I don't know," I snapped, frustration boiling over. "But this feels like a setback, Jess. You promised he was out of your life." "I thought he was." "I don't know why he's contacting me," she said, her eyes wide with shock. I felt my heart drop, the weight of betrayal crashing over me once more. "This isn't okay, Jess. I thought we were moving forward. I can't keep doing this if he's still in the picture. I swear to you, I didn't reach out to him," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "But he reached out to you." I shot back, feeling the anger rising within me. "I'll handle it," she said, her voice steadying. "I'll block him again. I don't want him in my life. I want to be with you. Can I trust you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Yes," she insisted, her eyes searching mine. "You can trust me. I don't want to lose you. I'll make this right." As she spoke, I felt the walls closing in around me. The past had reared its ugly head, and I didn't know how to push it away this time. #to be continued. Chapter 8, Confrontation. The tension in the room felt almost suffocating as I stared at Jess, my mind racing with conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to believe her that she truly wanted to be with me and had no intention of rekindling anything with Alex. But the hurt from the past still felt too fresh, and the unexpected message from Alex had cracked open old wounds I thought were healing. "I need to know what you're going to do about this," I said, my voice trembling. "I'll block him right now," Jess said, her hands trembling slightly as she grabbed her phone from the coffee table. "Just give me a second." I watched her as she typed furiously, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the decisive action we needed to move past Alex once and for all. She turned to me, her eyes earnest. "I'm blocking him. Right now." As she pressed the button, a wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a torrent of doubt. "What if he tries to reach you again?" "He won't. I've made it clear that I want nothing to do with him," Jess replied, her tone firm. "I'll tell my friends not to mention him either. I'm serious about us." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "I just don't understand why he would reach out after everything that happened." "I don't know," she admitted, her expression a mix of frustration and confusion. "Maybe he's lonely or regretting his actions. But that doesn't matter. I'm with you now. Do you still have feelings for him?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "No," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with sincerity. "I'm done with that part of my life. You're the one I want. I wish he would take the hint and leave us alone." Her frustration mirrored my own, and I could sense her desire to move on. But despite her assurances, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. "It's hard for me to just forget about him, Jess. You need to understand how deeply this has affected me." "I know it has. I'm so sorry for putting you through this," she said, her voice softening. "But I want to prove to you that I'm committed. Let's talk to my friends and make sure they know not to bring him up again." I nodded slowly, appreciating her willingness to take action. "That might help. I just want to feel secure in our relationship again." "I'll do everything I can to make you feel that way," she promised, her eyes locked onto mine with unwavering sincerity. As the evening wore on, we discussed our plans to address the situation with our friends and how we would move forward. I felt a mix of hope and apprehension as Jess reassured me that she was fully committed to making things right. But just as I began to relax, the thought of Alex's message gnawed at me. I found it difficult to focus on anything else as the days went by. Each time my phone buzzed, my heart raced, anticipating another message from him, a reminder that the past was not as easily left behind as I had hoped. A few days later, we had dinner with a couple of our close friends, Sarah and Mark. As we settled into our seats at the restaurant, I could feel the tension bubbling beneath the surface. Jess had been fidgeting with her phone all day, and I couldn't help but wonder if she was still thinking about Alex or if she was just preoccupied with her family issues. "Hey, so I wanted to bring something up," Sarah said, her expression serious as she sipped her drink. "I heard from Lisa that Alex has been reaching out to people we know. I thought you should know." Jess's face paled, and I could see the worry etched in her features. "What do you mean?" "Just that he's been trying to connect with some mutual friends. It seems like he's having a tough time and wants to talk to you," Sarah explained. I felt my heart drop, anger bubbling to the surface. "Why would you even bring that up? We're trying to move on from him." "Whoa, calm down," Mark interjected, sensing the tension rising. "Sarah was just letting us know. No one's trying to stir the pot here." "I know, but it feels like every time we take a step forward, something pulls us back," I snapped, frustration pouring out. Jess reached for my hand, her grip steadying me. "Let's just focus on us right now," she said softly. "We're here to have a good time, right?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. You're right. I'm sorry. It's just, I want to move past this, and it feels like the past keeps creeping back in. After a tense moment, we shifted the conversation back to lighter topics, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I could see Jess glancing at her phone more than usual, and it made me question whether she was really committed to leaving Alex behind. Later that night, after returning home, I decided to address it head on. Jess, can we talk? Sure, what's on your mind? She asked, her tone casual, but I could see the concern in her eyes. I can't help but feel like you're still connected to Alex in some way, I said, my voice tight. Every time something about him comes up, you seem anxious. I'm not anxious about him, she replied quickly. I'm just tired of the drama. I want us to be happy together. Then why are you still engaging with this situation? I pressed. You need to set clear boundaries with your friends about not bringing him up. I will. I promise. I just didn't think it would come up tonight, she said, her voice rising slightly. I'm trying to handle this in the best way I know how. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling overwhelmed. I just want to feel secure. Can you understand that? Of course I do, she replied, her expression softening. But I need you to trust me too. I'm doing my best to make this work. Trust is hard for me right now, Jess. I want to believe you, but I feel like every time I turn around, there's a reminder of Alex, I admitted, my voice wavering. I get it, and I'm so sorry for that, she said, stepping closer. But I'm committed to you. I'll handle this. You have my word. As we stood there, I realized that trust would take time to rebuild. I could see her sincerity, but I also knew that I had to be patient with myself and with her. I want to believe you, I said quietly. Let's keep talking about this. I don't want to ignore it anymore. Me too, Jess replied, her eyes filled with understanding. We can get through this. I want us to be strong together. The road ahead would be challenging, but I felt a renewed sense of determination to face it head on. Together, we would confront the ghosts of our past, learning to trust each other and rebuild our love, one conversation at a time. Hashtag to be continued. Chapter 9, Unraveling the Past. As the days turned into weeks, Jess and I continued to navigate the treacherous waters of rebuilding trust. Our conversations became more open, and we made a point to communicate our feelings regularly. I found comfort in knowing that Jess was trying to engage with me, but the shadow of Alex still loomed large in my mind. One rainy afternoon, while I was scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a post that made my heart race. It was a photo of Jess and Alex from a few months before the breakup. They were at a party, laughing together, arms around each other, with bright smiles that felt like daggers to my heart. I felt a wave of nausea as I stared at the image, my mind racing with questions. Why was this still circulating? Did she still have feelings for him? I felt anger bubbling up as I confronted my fears. Jess. I called out, my voice tense. She came into the room, looking concerned. What's wrong? I held up my phone, showing her the post. What the hell is this? Her face paled as she looked at the screen. I didn't know that was still out there. That was a long time ago. Why are there still pictures of you two on social media? I pressed, my heart racing. It feels like you're not as committed to moving on as you say. I didn't even think about it. I'll take it down, I promise, she said quickly, her voice rising slightly in panic. Take it down? This isn't just about the photo, Jess. This is about you being able to let go of him completely. I'm trying. But I can't erase every single memory, she argued, her frustration evident. That was part of my life, but it doesn't mean anything now. But it feels like it does. I shot back, my voice echoing off the walls. It feels like you're still holding onto him. She stepped closer, her expression shifting from frustration to concern. I'm not. I'm here with you, aren't I? I want to build a future with you, not him. I sighed, my shoulders sagging. I know, but it's hard for me to believe that when I see things like this. I just want to feel like I'm enough. You are enough, she insisted, her voice softening as she reached for my hand. Please, don't let this get in the way of us. I care about you so much. We stood there, the tension slowly diffusing as we looked into each other's eyes. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that she was committed to me, but the ghosts of the past were relentless. Later that evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I felt the weight of my emotions crashing down on me. The movie played in the background, but I couldn't focus. I turned to Jess, who was curled up next to me, her head resting on my shoulder. Jess, I began, my voice heavy. Can we talk about Alex again? She tensed slightly but nodded. Of course. What's on your mind? I need to know more about your past with him. I feel like I don't have the full picture, I admitted, feeling vulnerable. She sat up, looking thoughtful. I understand. It's not easy for me to talk about, but I'm willing to share. Just promise me you won't judge me too harshly. I promise, I said, bracing myself for what was to come. We dated for a little over a year. It was intense, passionate and all-consuming. But it wasn't healthy, she began, her gaze distant as she recalled the memories. He was charming but also manipulative. There were moments when he made me feel like I was walking on eggshells. It's hard to explain. I get that. I've been there, I said gently, wanting her to know I understood. I fell for him hard, but over time, I started to realize that he wasn't the person I thought he was. I finally found the strength to break it off, but it wasn't easy. He didn't take it well, she continued, her voice growing softer. I was scared of him for a while after we broke up. I thought he would come after me. My heart sank as I listened to her story. I could see the pain in her eyes, the memories that haunted her. That sounds really tough, Jess. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It was, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But I also learned a lot about myself. I promised myself I would never go back to that kind of relationship. That's why I fought so hard to make things work between us. I nodded, processing her words. I appreciate you sharing that with me. It helps me understand you better. I want you to know that you're different, she said earnestly. You make me feel safe and loved. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you either, I replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and apprehension. But I need to know that I'm not just a rebound for you. I need to feel secure in what we have. You're not a rebound. You're my future, she insisted, her gaze unwavering. I chose you. I want to build something real together. The sincerity in her voice sent a rush of warmth through me, but the doubt still lingered. I want to believe that, but it's hard when reminders of him keep surfacing. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that to you, Jess promised, determination lighting up her eyes. Let's work through this together. I'm not going anywhere. As the conversation deepened, I could feel the walls I had built around my heart starting to crack. Jess's vulnerability and honesty made it easier for me to open up about my own insecurities. We talked late into the night, weaving through our fears and hopes for the future. But just as I started to feel a glimmer of hope, my phone buzzed again, this time with a notification from social media. I opened the app and froze. It was a new post from Alex, tagging Jess in a photo of them from the party, captioned, "Good times with good friends. Missing these moments." Jess, I whispered, my heart sinking. She leaned over, her face falling as she saw the notification. What the hell? I thought I blocked him. I can't keep doing this, I said, feeling the anger rising again. This isn't fair to me. It feels like he's still in the picture. I'll handle it. I swear. I'll contact him and tell him to stop, she said, desperation creeping into her voice. Will that even work? I shot back, frustration spilling over. How many chances are you going to give him to mess with our relationship? Please, just give me a moment to figure this out. Jess pleaded, her voice cracking. I don't know how much more I can take, I replied, my heart heavy with uncertainty. We stood in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on us. I could feel the chasm of doubt widening between us, and I wondered if we would ever be able to bridge that gap. #to be continued.